Hey BAT, back to talk a little bit about how to add a gradient to a logo. So here's my logo that I produced, and I'm going to put a little bit of a gradient in this circle in the background, maybe just a little bit of a sheen to switch from one color to another. To do that, I have to make sure that I select the fill color because I want the fill to be a gradient. If you wanted the stroke color to be a gradient, you could do that too. Just bring that to the forward position. I'm going to put the fill as a gradient, so I bring that forward. The gradients are usually located over here in your dock. If they're not, you can always go to Window and then find gradient in here. Gradient. The gradient box that is over here, you can just pull it off and put it wherever you want. I click on this gradient bar to put a gradient into the circle. The gradient is by default white to black. So we have a white tick mark on the bar and we have a black. And you can adjust those things on here if you'd like. You can also adjust the angle of the linear gradient, or you can change the linear gradient to a radial gradient. Some options that are in there. When you want to put a color in there, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to double click on the little tiny tick mark on your gradient bar, and you're going to have to put a color in here. Mine, sometimes it pulls up like a gray scale version of this, and I don't see any colors in here. So what I can do, click this tiny little button here and turn it to RGB or CMYK to get your colors back, and then you can select a color from within here. And so let's say I wanted a color in this one as well. I'm gonna have to click on that little button again, RGB, and maybe I'll have a very light color there, so a darker color and a lighter color. And you can see how that's sort of gradiating towards the right. The other thing that's interesting about once you have the gradient in there, you can customize the gradient using the gradient tool. So the gradient tool here can click and drag. If you go short distance, it will be an abrupt transition. If you click and drag a long ways, it'll be a slow, soft transition. So I like to keep my gradients pretty low key, like you can't hardly even notice them. And then I'm gonna hit OK. I kind of like that back there, and that's how you perform a gradient. If you want to get crazy with gradients, you can always add, select the shape, and you can add multiple colors. You can add more colors underneath this little bar, and you can tell that to be, you can get really intense pretty quick if you start adding multiple colors in here. You can get pretty out of control. So that's something. But if you want to take those off, you just rip them off. Just click on them and drag them off. Okay, that's the gradient tool. I'll see you in class.